When I ask you what your name is, that's one thing. But when God asks you what your name is, that's another thing. If you want to know what He's really asking, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Monique, and your text today comes from Genesis 32, verse 27, and it says, "And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob." Don't you think it's quite strange that the all-knowing God was asking for Jacob's name? Didn't he already know? Or was he looking for something deeper? Just like any other baby, Jacob was named by his parents at his birth. Genesis 25 verse 26 says, "And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob." How interesting! Jacob was holding on to his brother's Esau's heel, and that's why his parents named him Jacob, which means heel holder or supplanter, which has a negative connotation, and it actually means to take the place of another as through force, scheming, strategy, or the like. So, did that ever become a reality in Jacob's life? Was he a supplanter? The Bible recorded two incidents. Incident number 1. Jacob bought the birthright from Esau with a bowl of food when Esau was at his hungriest moment. You can read this in Genesis 25 verses 29 verse 31. Esau was the firstborn and was entitled to the spiritual birthright. He was not supposed to sell it and was at fault for doing so. But Jacob was cunning enough to wait for an opportunity like this. He asked his brother to sell his birthright for a bowl of red stew. Incident number 2. Jacob stole the financial blessing from Esau by deceiving his own father and pretending to be his brother. You can read this in Genesis chapter 27. So it's pretty obvious that Jacob was a supplanter. But back to our text for the day. By this time, Jacob was already old. After he deceived his father, he ran away from home and worked for his uncle. He wanted to marry one of his daughters, but got deceived and ended up marrying both. And by this time, Jacob already had 11 children and wanted to settle down, and he wanted to go home. But there was one thing that was still haunting him, and that was his sin of deceiving his father and his brother to obtain the birthright. Genesis chapter 32 records Jacob's final spiritual struggle and physical wrestle with the Lord himself, which he eventually overcame. And that's why in Genesis 32 verse 28, God says, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed." God changed Jacob's name, signifying a change, an overcoming change in Jacob's character. From Jacob, which means a supplanter, to Israel, which means as a prince thou hast prevailed with God and with men, and hast prevailed. In other words, an overcomer. Friends, God is asking the same question to you today. What is your name? Is there any sinful flaw in your character that you need to overcome? When you grab hold of His power and when you do overcome, God has a beautiful promise for you in Revelation 2 verse 17. "To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it." Friends, don't you want this promise to be fulfilled in your life? Then surrender to God and ask for His strength to overcome any sin in your life. Consider yourself texted. Here's how you can watch another episode of Texted. Make sure you like it, share it, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook.